Hello, everyone. Welcome to another session of Healthy X Sundays podcast, where we bring you the most important and actionable information in the field of nutrition and wellness. I'm your host, Dave from Mind Muscle Project, and joining me today as the co host is Kunal Jain, also known as the Veg Diet Coach. Today, we have a special guest, Mrs. Hema Natarajan. She is from Bangalore. She's a nutritionist and an owner of an organic store. So, a very interesting guest today. Welcome, Hema ma'am, to this podcast.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, first question I have for you is like, you are from a totally different background. I believe you are an MBA holder. You work in HR. You used to work in HR. From there, how and when did your journey start in nutrition and wellness? That's like completely different things. So how did that happen?
Okay, long story. You have to bear with me.
Yeah.
Actually, I do have a science background. In fact, I've done 1 year of medicine and then I couldn't pursue it for some reason. And then the MBA happened and whatever. So I come from actually a vegetarian family, Tamil Iyer Brahmin family. So I don't even remember seeing a pod of garlic in my house. And then I married into a carnivorous family. Okay. And not just any other carnivorous family, but, not just muscle meat eating carnivorous family, but an offal eating hardcore carnivorous family. And to top it all, my in-laws were fantastic cooks. Okay. So there was an element of competition. So, the more I got married and then I started seeing different things in the kitchen and watched them and learned how to cook meat, etc. And from eating idli dosa to, having chapati and chicken curry for breakfast was a huge mindset shift. Then came the kids and their diseases and illnesses and vaccines and allergies and stuff. And, although I didn't know much at that time, I used to keep questioning my pediatrician, why this vaccine? Why are you giving her an antiviral for a bacterial infection, etc.? And I didn't get any satisfactory answers. And I wasn't, going to drug them continually on, giving them antibiotics and stuff. Then I said there has to be a better way, and so then that's when I started reading up about nutrition and, made a few basic changes in food and saw a positive impact. And, it all began from there. That was about 15 years ago. And ever since, there's been no looking back.
That's quite interesting. That's uh, a, a pure vegetarian being married into a carnivorous family. That's quite interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
Must have been fun in the initial uh, days.
It was, except the fact that my dad would keep threatening to disown me. Yeah. So
So,
that's how it began. Yeah.
so one of the reasons we have you as the guest is not just about the nutrition, but nutritionist. You are a nutritionist. You are a functional nutritionist.
Yeah.
But you and your husband run an organic store in Bangalore. So that again is an interesting thing. So, what was the motivation behind such a venture? And tell us a bit more about your store as well.
Okay, again, long story. You'll have to bear with me. Okay, so my husband's family was into farming, and my husband himself is a software developer turned farmer, true son of the soil he is. And we have an 18-acre glorious piece of land in the outskirts of Bangalore. So there's always been a lot of trial and error in trying to grow stuff on our farms. So we've been through, trials of growing different grasses. By grasses, I mean different grains, millets, fruits. We have some medicinal plants, etc. Now, during the process, we made a lot of contacts, farmers who grew stuff organically nice clean produce, but then they don't find a way to get into the market. Therefore our next logical step was to start a store, where we could keep their produce and the farmers could benefit while giving customers clean organic produce. And so Annamaya Organics was born. Now, since you know, Bangalore is like the hub of organic products in India, and every few yards you'll find this pish tosh air conditioned organic store. So we wanted ours to be a little different. We wanted the middle class to be able to buy clean organic produce. To achieve this, we kept the store in a very, largely middle class society kind of locality. Kept the stuff largely affordable as far as possible. And also, we didn't want a store where people would just come in and buy stuff. We wanted people to get some amount of basic guidance in healthy eating. So our store managers and everybody are all graduates in nutrition science, and it's like it's a small house, with a red oxide flooring, and it's not some kind of an AC store where people will have inhibitions going in. So when people walk into Annamaya, they walk in with a feeling that there's someone who's taking care of their health.
Right. So that's a great like a great story. So Annamaya itself means without harmful substances. If I got it right.
Not necessarily. Annamaya basically means the food quotient, the food part of your body. There's the different layers of your pranic body, your food body, the basic body, etc. So the food aspect, the first part of your body is Annamaya, where everything begins from there. So that's why we decided to name it Annamaya.
So like organic and herbal.
Yeah.
These are two common buzzwords going around in India in this space. In being from in Bangalore, it's a huge deal. Like organic, herbal, uh, people sell stuff. And if I have to be frank, it's no secret that many of these things are largely marketing gimmicks and nothing else. So, so according to you, how can the average consumer different like me I'm the average consumer in this field, how can I differentiate between legit stuff and fake stuff, right? Are there any government certifications or any pointers in general that I should be looking out for when I'm going after real organic stuff?
How does an average consumer find out if a product is legit or not? You can't, period. It's just that if I give you an organic carrot and a non-organic carrot, would you be able to tell the difference? I most likely not, unless you're Krish Ashok or somebody who is a pro and who would say, hey, the ugly one is the organic one and stuff. Most likely not. So you need, to trust the source. You need a trusted organic store, which in turn needs trusted farmers where they buy from. The entire supply chain needs to be trusted. Certifications are good, but really not necessary. The norms for certification are quite pliable in India.
Yeah.
I mean, a natural pesticide is still a pesticide. So the best way is to have a trusted supply chain. Essentially, you should know where your food is coming from.
So that transparency is the key, I guess.
Yeah, certification is not really the thing. You trust your organic store and they have trusted sources. You have an entire, trust based supply chain that probably works better.
So in your store, when if somebody wants to know where this is coming from or that is coming from, like they get to know this, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Brilliant. So my next question is, I think you touched upon this briefly. One of the reasons people hesitate to go for organic products is the cost. Let's be frank, like cost of organic products are very high for the average person. So what is the reason for such a price difference? Like if I have to give an example, ghee. Okay, a normal ghee would cost like 500, 600 per liter, that the ones in supermarket. But an organic ghee can cost like 1,500, 2,000, if not more. So can you give give our listeners some insight on, like, on this, what exactly, why is the reason this price difference, and some insight into this.
Yeah, cost wise, yes. Organic produce is costlier because it's common sense, because the yield is low. Okay, so one has to understand this. So when pesticides are sprayed over plants, the plants don't need to bother about defending themselves against insects and stuff. So the yield is good, the produce is good, the tomatoes are not all nice and shiny and stuff. But incidentally, the entire act of plants trying to defend themselves from being eaten, right, from these pests and everything, that's what lends the flavor into the vegetables. So, but the only drawback is now, because these pesticides are not being sprayed, there's some amount of spoilage. Some plants die, and whatever. So that's how we lose products, and the yield is low. So that's one point. And another thing is, now when you spoke about ghee and everything, there is a method where you prepare the ghee. It's not like specifically organic Bologna method ghee, is a very labor intensive process, and the cows are high maintenance cows. They are A2, the AC cows.
Right.
And there's a lot of hand churning that happens. There's a lot of nutritional value that Bologna ghee lends. And so there is a lot of things why it's costlier. Now let's plus a third point would be the raw material. Let's take cold pressed oils, for instance. Specifically, let's take coconut oil, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
The wood press machines, the cold press machines itself cost. Okay, we have two at Anamaya, and they run into lakhs, the cost of them. And plus, you have to do the math yourself. If a cold pressed coconut oil is costing 350 to 400 rupees per liter, find out the price of coconuts, do the math, and you'll realize you can't sell it for any lesser, having taken into consideration a decent margin. So yeah, you have to pay a premium for high quality stuff. Think of it as better to spend on good quality food than to be paying for hospital bills later.
Right, that makes sense. So, from a business perspective, like, what are some of the challenges you face in this organic products business in India? Like, are there any specific challenges that you guys face?
We did. I mean, awareness used to be a challenge, but not so much anymore. I mean, people are, aware of things. And, in urban society, yes, they are aware of things. Supply sources used to be a challenge, but they're also not, they are also growing by the day. There are a lot of people who are now earnestly trying to preserve our heirloom grains, millets, etc., and really wanting to take organic farming to to the place where it used to be before the 70s, before the green revolution came around, and before the pesticides and fertilizers came about and stuff. So as Annamaya, right now we have more demand than we can meet, actually. As an organic store, people trust us, and we have to expand only to meet the demands of people, and also have an online presence for the for the convenience of customers. But overall, people in Bangalore are willing to pay for good quality stuff, and that's a good thing.
Great. So, like, setting, once you, like, I believe you guys are in the process of setting an online platform for your products, and once that is set, more people can have access to it, I believe, right?
Yeah, yeah, hopefully, yes.
Great. So, since we spoke about awareness and people are willing to pay, I just want to throw in another question: is like, what is, like, if I have to be honest, a lot of our clients are from Bangalore also itself. Like, I think 40% of our clients are from Bangalore itself. Not that other places are not super healthy or anything, but there's something about Bangalore that I don't know, makes it unhealthy. I don't want to say an unhealthy city, but something about it is, I don't know, like, what is it? Is it the work culture, or what is the reason? Can you just?
See, in Bangalore's filled with eateries, okay, and people love to snack. So as I see it, there are two distinct groups in Bangalore. One is the lazy, techie group, or you can generalize it as techie group, but otherwise also there's a samosa for snack eating kind of people who are really not bothered about their health. They would eat anything. And there's another sect who would, like, be very picky and love, health jargon, like I didn't get my electrolytes for today, I didn't get my protein for today, and white bread versus brown bread, etc. So there are these two distinct groups. Either they're too finicky about stuff, and or to the other side. There's no, like, the larger population of middle ground people are probably less. So that's probably why you find a lot of an unhealthy crowd or whatever. There's a lot of
Right,
subculture. There's a lot of fun things happening. The nightlife in Bangalore is second to none, and
right. Okay. So moving on, I've followed you for, I guess, maybe 2 years now, and one of the things that always caught my eyes is you post a lot of different recipes here on X. Most of them are like traditional food, but made with a little twist that makes it healthier.
yeah, I've
So,
lost a lot of friends for that also.
yeah, yeah. So, what are some of the challenges you that? What are some of the changes that you have made at your home for cleaner eating? And uh, do share some cooking tips, like how to make things healthier, like you do for our audience.
Okay, so one thing everybody needs to understand is that your health lies in your kitchen. Okay, period. And I, for one, am lucky to be born in a family with plenty of traditional recipes, and most Indian homes are. And recipes passed on from grandmothers are, kind of the healthiest because they inadvertently had an innate knowledge on food science, far better than what we do today. So I just made a few very basic changes to begin with, throughout, like sugar, processed junk food, refined flours, refined oils, etc. And once the person who does who predominantly cooks in the house brings about these changes, and there's a supportive spouse, it's a fun journey actually. Kids will naturally follow, without too much of a revolt. I could see that in my kids, and and food, it's really not a big deal. The prep is what is important. Make a few things, that you use your fridge, make a few decent prep things and store it, and you can always use it and make a quick fix meal, on the spot. It's not a big deal. Like, I, for one, use a lot of avocado and chickpeas and stuff. So I store a lot of things, like avocado spread. I'll make it and keep it, or pesto sauce or something like a hummus. These things can be used with, like, any and everything. So that's what makes it easier, and kids get sort of aligned to this, and it's not much of a war happening at home.
You have certainly influenced my way of eating. Definitely, I can say that. Like, I knew about food. I've been eating healthy and all, but you definitely had an influence. Like, I don't like, either I would go for this kind of cuisine or that kind of cuisine. But since the time I've been seeing your post, I have been like, who cares? I don't mind if I have to pair an avocado with a chutney pudi. I don't care. I'm just go after it. Anything
Yeah,
that's
eat what makes you happy. That's it. No one's going to judge you for that. Eat it with molaga pudi. Who cares?
yeah. So, yeah, like, I think in one of our conversations, you mentioned that you have a different, like, for your in your home you use a different kind of wheat and all, like for your kids or something, like some different form of wheat so that you don't have to use the normal stuff. So, like, so that sort of things. What, like, small changes? Like, what do you do? Like,
So I, in general, try to reduce the grain thing, overall for even for the children. Earlier, I used to use emmer wheat. I still do, it's definitely got lesser gluten than the regular wheat. But now I've found a new thing where, it's activated sprouted grains, they work far better in the sense they're far easier on the stomach. And since they're sprouted and activated, they're, naturally the carbohydrate content comes down a great deal. And for like for example, if you're using grains like jawar, bajra and everything, I would say use the sprouted version. It is available now. And just, it's a little tough in the sense kneading, and the balefying aspect is a little tough, but you can always use some amount of, let's say, xanthan gum. Or I have videos where you can actually make it pliable, in the sense, if you heat the jawar flour or bajra flour on, on a, like, boil it, when, like, you make in Karnataka, you make ragi mudde, right? So you boil it and then you make a dough, and then you kind of knead it, and then it's pliable like your regular atta. So you can make rotis like that. So there are healthy alternatives to almost everything.
Right. So I pinned some of your recipes. Some of your meal plates you share. I just pinned it on top of the space, so you guys can see like how awesome she cooks. So yeah, I guess another career is in the waiting. So okay, now coming to another portion of your this thing, like you are a functional nutrition practitioner. You are a functional nutritionist essentially. Uh, at the same time, I see that you are a big proponent of Ayurveda or Ayurvedic or traditional way of eating also. So, do you see any similarities between the two? Are there like elements from Ayurveda that can be used in modern day diets?
Okay, we should all be proud of Ayurveda, and rightly so. Okay, since we're in India. But we should also understand that Ayurvedic principles, be it food and, whatever else, books like Charaka Samhita, Sushruta Samhita, etc., were books that were written keeping in mind the existing geographies, the culture, the lifestyle at that time. So not everything can be copied as it was written, as it you find it over there. uh Simply, if I were to, like, give a little bit of insight on this, let's say, north of India and west of India were largely, plains, uh, grasslands, where you could do a lot of dairy farming and you could do a lot of agriculture. So let's say if you have a fever or something, their go to food would be a khichdi, or they would rely on something like milk or dairy or whatever. But in the south of India, if you're sick, people would generally tend to go to a bone broth or something like that, and people were more in south and east, people were more meat eating. And dairy farming was not possible. So in fact, as statistics says, in India, 70%, I don't know if the number is correct, but close to 70% of South Indians are lactose intolerant, but whereas the North Indians can tolerate it. So yes, there are many things that we can borrow from Ayurveda, but I would say add a bit of common sense and adapt, to go about it.
Right. So, things like 8 ways of dietetics, right? Like the Prakriti and all that stuff. Like, you think there's like Prakriti, Karana, Samyoga, combination of food, how you eat, what time do you eat, or like you think there is some substance to this, but you always
Of
have
course,
to
there's
put in the
some
logic.
substance of course, there is substance to it, but then there's also the thing that, let's say, for example, Viruddhahara. They say don't mix meat with milk, or don't mix, fish and
Curd. Fish and
Curd,
milk.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But for every such thing, you can always give examples in India where people have survived and nothing has happened to them eating those combinations, right?
Yes, like for instance, here in Bengal, here in Kolkata,
Yeah, right.
curd and
Yeah.
fish is like a delicacy. Like they call it doi
Marcher
mach. It's a
roll and
yeah, yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that. And
exactly.
even down south, more Coimba and all that, you heat buttermilk and you have savory dishes with buttermilk and everything. So food aspects that way are based on a lot of geographies, ethnicities, caste, region. So there's no universal generalizations of it.
Right. So, okay, this is like we are in the era of diet wars.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it has almost become like a religion. Like people, it's like making a political statement by favoring a diet. So, uh, people are making diets their identity. So, what, according to you, or how do you like? How should an ideal diet look like? Is there such a thing? Like, is it low carb, high carb, veg, non-veg? Like, what is an ideal diet according to you?
Okay, I would say that for every diet that's labeled, there will be people for whom it has worked, and there will be people for whom it's not worked, right? Nutrition science is highly complicated. We are still learning, and it depends on a lot of things, just like how I mentioned, caste, ethnicity, geography, your genes, etc. Some people tolerate this because they could for generations. Some people cannot tolerate it for whatever reason. So as long as a good diet is something that you can follow, so as long as you're eating clean 80% of the time, and eating clean varies from person to person depending on many factors, right? Their blood work, their metabolic activities, their histamine tolerance, their medical conditions. So it's not a one size fits all thing at all. So, as I see it in general, for a metabolically fit person, as long as you're getting your main source of calories from protein and fat and go easy on the carbs and grains, you will do relatively well in terms of health. But at this point, I'd like to mention, I think it's important to mention that the age for, let's say, diabetes detection is going lower and lower and lower. I mean,
Yes.
these days we find even children, age 8, 9, developing diabetes. And I'm not talking about insipidus, I'm talking about mellitus, I'm talking about type 2 diabetes. So parents have to be a little wary about the nutrition of their children. Watch what your child eats. And, first of all, I would say begin from, don't give sweet treats as a reward, and stop celebrating these birthdays with cake cutting and stuff. That's not been in our culture at all. uh, these parents don't have to be these super woke biohackers or a nutrition wizard to understand very basic things like, for example, let's say a combination of salt, sugar, and fat. By fat means the bad fat like triglycerides and stuff. They are the ultimate in making you addicted for further and further and more because of your insulin spikes and stuff. Parents need to understand that these are the foods that make a child addictive to these kind of foods, and they keep wanting more and more of the same stuff. And that's what is the step towards obesity. And once the child is obese and gets the fatty liver situation and all, that's the first step to insulin resistance. And this child going forward, in years to come, will definitely be a diabetes patient. So one has to understand that diabetes is, not something that happens overnight. It has happened over like 10, 12, 15 years of junk food eating or wrong eating. People parents have to be aware of that.
Yeah. So basically, the seeds have been laid early in childhood, and it just by the time you are in your 30s and all, you have full blown diabetes. That's what is happening.
Exactly, exactly.
Right.
This thing, okay, a healthy child is not a khate peete ghar ka child, You have to realize that, stop this thing of, every time wanting to feed the child. It's a more a mental thing than, anything else.
Yeah, a little chubby child is always seen as it's a sign of prosperity or that's happiness or
Yeah,
whatever. A little chubby child is so that's
yeah,
how we attach. Yeah.
yeah.
So, like, I just want to ask you, like, since you mentioned about childhood, like getting into diabetes and stuff, I want to ask you is like, how do we realistically do this? Like, I know it's easy for us to say this, but the food environment out there is so bad. When the child goes to the school, it's how it's so much bad food here. It's so much bad food there. Like, is it possible to control this in a realistic way? Like, and
Uh,
yeah,
Yeah, it's not 100% possible. I agree because there's a lot of peer pressure when it comes to children. Like, even for my children, I don't restrict them 100%. I mean, there's always going to be birthday parties, going out and, eating a pizza here and there. And so the thing is to, eat less of what you would normally eat. And that's the only way to go about it. And, once you bring these changes at home, uh, not by telling the children don't eat this, and I mean you can't say you don't eat that and you yourself as parents binge on this and that.
yeah,
You have to practice what you preach. Children learn more from observing than being told what to do, right?
right,
So I mean with my children, at this point, they also talk about health, and they also talk about even supplements and other things to others, and even their friends, of which I'm kind of very proud actually. So it can happen, but
yeah.
it's not 100% thing. The more you restrict them, the more they turn, they try to revolt.
So it's the parents who have to set the tone. Like parents have to lead from the front, then kids will be influenced.
Absolutely, because it's more changing the food environment. You can't keep a cookie jar in your house and say don't eat. You don't keep the cookie jar. It's easier than keeping it and then say make your willpower such that you should not eat it. Don't keep the cookie jar at all in the house.
Yeah, right. So, so how does your daily routine look like as far as your health, like as far as your food is concerned and exercise or whatever? How does your daily routine look like? And what is the diet you follow? Is there like, do you have a? Can we call? Is there a name to your diet, or you just go
No, no,
after
there's
it?
no there's no name to my diet. It's just that I enjoy whatever I eat. So I begin my day with some, tall glass of warm water, some salt, some lemon, and some apple cider vinegar on some days, and also some shilajit on some days. So I alternate between the two, and I have two decent sized, nutrient filled meals a day. So I
Right.
prioritize proteins for breakfast, and I have a fairly nutrient dense lunch. And then I have tons of ghee with almost everything. I love ghee. I do an hour and a half of yoga every morning and an hour of swimming or walking in the evening, depending on the weather.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, I just want to ask you, like, what is your opinion about this low carb, carnivore, keto kind of thing? Right? Like it's the other end of the spectrum. Like it's a new concept in India, and it's kind of getting popular. So, what is your thoughts on it? It's like it's only required for a certain section of the people, or can it be mass adopted as well?
No, diets can never be mass adopted, and it's specific to every single body, and it's specific to what you are going through, your medical condition, and whatever. And eat in such a way that what you want to achieve, the goals that you want to achieve can be fulfilled. Now, you want to, let's say you want a weight loss journey, so you have to eat accordingly. There are particular diets and there are many ways you can achieve that. If you're going through some specific ailment, there are specific ways you can do that. But after having found out your blood work, what is it that you can't tolerate, what is it that there are a lot of things that people don't understand nowadays. So blood work helps, like your homocysteine levels
Yes.
or your histamine tolerance. You can't make a blanket statement that probiotics are fantastic for everybody or fermented foods are fantastic for everybody. So it's never tailor made. I mean, it's never universal. It has to be tailor made.
Right. So I think the word is like bio individuality, right? That's the key here.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right. So, the last guest we had on our podcast, Mr. Zolt. So he used an interesting term, interesting sentence rather. Never get married to a diet. So that's
Yeah.
what he used. I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Follow a diet, a diet which you can follow every single day, which is sustainable and which gives you joy. You can't like eat something and then say, yuck, what am I eating? And eat out of disgust. Because that's not going to like do anything. Be grateful for what you eat and eat with love and, happily.
Right. So one another question I have is give our audience like some actionable tips to improve their health. Suppose somebody doesn't have like a serious illness or anything, but just unfit, has a pot belly, a little bit of is
Yeah,
not
yeah.
too great and stuff. Like, give some actionable tips as far as food and exercise on how to stay healthy or how to change that whole pattern of getting unhealthier.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Firstly, you have to admit that, I'm unhealthy and I want to do something about it. It has to come from within you. No matter what anybody says, if it doesn't come within you to want to change, nothing is going to, help you achieve your goals of health. So I would say take that first step today, work on food pattern changes rather than trying to completely eliminate something or add something completely new or whatever. Change what your plate looks like with the same food that you eat. Reduce your carbohydrates and increase the accompaniments, reverse your plate, begin there, and add and delete as you go on, right? And there are certain things that, whatever said and done are going to benefit you. Like, for example, follow the circadian rhythm as far as possible. Do some breath work in the morning or exercise, move, and make grounding part of your daily life. Use good quality supplements intelligently, and be grateful. Like I said, be grateful for whatever you have. And don't hesitate to take the help of a trained nutritionist.
Right. So yeah, it's very actionable, right? Like a lot of things like grounding, switching off your screens after certain
Yeah,
uh
yeah.
like these are like small things that can improve your health in a big way. So Kunal, join in please. Kunal, you there?
Yeah, very interesting discussion. Definitely a lot of good pointers there. Quite intrigued that you moved from a vegetarian diet to uh, a sort of non-vegetarian diet. And so, what do you think in terms of nutrition, non-vegetarian versus vegetarian? People who can move to a non-vegetarian diet, is it like beneficial in terms of nutrition, or we can still follow a vegetarian diet and try to get the at least not the same nutrition, but yeah, we can still do well on a vegetarian diet. Just your thoughts on that.
Look, Kunal, this is a never-ending debate, veg versus non-veg. So, scientifically, yes, if you were to look at it from, a nutritionist's angle, we know that meat consists of all the amino acids that you need, but specifically in India, religion, culture, etc., forms a big background of what you eat. So I would say, eat whatever you find or you feel comfortable eating, but derive the maximum nutrition from what you're eating. So, do your best to derive whatever nutrition that from whatever you are eating, whether it is veg or non-veg. Actually, on a very, very, very universal level, I would say, I would give you the example of, let's say, breast milk, human breast milk, right?
Right.
90% of it is water. Okay. And among the 10%, you have like 30% sugars, 40 to 50% fats, and 20% protein, right? So if
Right.
you don't want to look at the veg versus non-veg aspects, if your food or if your nutrition conforms to this percentage, however you get your fats and your macros from, I think you'll relatively do okay. That's my take.
Yeah, completely agree. And in terms of kids' health, what do you think? You spoke about vaccinations, etc., which are only increasing and they might not be safe. But for kids, what kind of protocol parents should follow so that from a very early on age they can be trained about good nutrition? Like probably what do you follow in your family or some tips there?
So for kids, the first thing is you have to tell them whatever comes out of a packet is not necessarily a good thing, a factory thing, made thing, and whatever comes out of a packet. And more importantly, for kids' nutrition, the onus lies on the parents. So you don't like find, ways and means to save time and therefore, give some junk to your children so that they keep quiet or whatever. You make the effort of, cooking fresh food with good, clean ingredients. And when the children see you do that, they eventually try and appreciate that. And, when they start eating that kind of food, their body kind of gets used to eating that kind of food. So they will take
Right.
it on from there. So that's the kind of conditioning that you have to slowly do on the children.
Exactly. And since you are a big proponent of organic food, and do you recommend that some kind of vegetables can be grown in the house? Like people can have a terrace garden or a balcony garden, vertical garden, something so that they can get some produce at home, as well as gardening is a big stress relieving hobby. So, do you think on those lines or recommend people getting into that area as well?
Absolutely. Why not? I mean, people who live in independent houses, you're free to do that, and, once I mean, daily, dumping your hands in soil would give you a good immune system as well. So
Exactly.
and, but in an apartment scenario, you can't do that. In Bangalore, where I live, uh, yeah, people with independent houses and an opportunity to do kitchen gardening, there's nothing that can be more wonderful than that.
Right. And what is the role of cooking in terms of cooking is an art and a skill. So anyone to live a very healthy, good, holistic life, how much cooking has to, kind of become a part of their life? How can people improve their cooking culinary skills so that they can enjoy good food as well as nutritious food? What are your tips there?
So, like I already mentioned, cooking is really, I mean, if you enjoy doing what you're doing and you're cooking for the family, you're giving, uh, nourishing food for your family in itself is a big, a calming factor to a mom or to, whoever's cooking predominantly. I don't want to be the feminist type over here. But yeah, it's like the prep is what is important. Once you get the prep ready, cooking is really not a big deal. And nowadays social media has, in YouTube and Instagram, you find tons of easy recipes which you can play with, and you can sort of cater or tweak to your own taste buds. So there's plenty of opportunity for cooking. I myself do that. I still watch recipes and kind of mix and match and do all sorts of things. Uh, Cooking. I mean, I love cooking.
Great.
So, so
Yeah.
somebody asked me a question earlier in the day. I just want to pass it on to you because you might be the best person to answer this. So, uh, so somebody was asking like eggs available in the market are basically filled with antibiotics. So, is it better off to not eat eggs or rather go for these normal eggs because not everyone can afford those organic 20-25 rupees per piece wala eggs. So that's something that people ask. So is there, where do you draw the lines between go for this and totally avoid it?
I would say some egg is better than no egg. So, eggs are by far the most complete complete natural food that gives you tons of nutrition at a low cost. So if you invest in good eggs, and if you have access to good quality eggs, there's nothing like it. But because you don't have access to it, not eating eggs is not perhaps the right way. Eat it, but like I said, no eggs. Some eggs are better than no eggs at all.
Okay.
But these websites and these other places have organic eggs which are very highly priced. But there are some organic stores which would give you eggs for like 10-15 rupees, which are free grazed, in the sense not free grazed chicken, but the feed is not what do you say, too contaminated. You can't have, like, even in our store, when we say free grazed chicken, you there's a very less possibility of having them really free graze and stuff. It's just that the feed that you give them should not be very grain centric.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of what the answer I also gave. Like we have bigger challenges. Protein deficiency and nutrient deficiency is a bigger challenge
Yeah,
compared to the little bit of antibiotics you might get. So
exactly.
you have to look at the larger aspect. So
Right, right, right.
so I so it's been a wonderful discussion today. I think if any of our audience have any questions, please free to come forward. You can ask the question. I'll give you the mic, or you can just type in there's a box, there's a comment box below. You can type in your question as well. Anyone with questions? Kunal, you want to step in?
Um, Good for now.
So I don't think we have any questions. So let's wind it up. So it's been a wonderful session. We got learned so much about. Okay, there's a question. There's a question from somebody. I just want to let me just. There's a question from somebody. Kunal, can you just see? I cannot find it. I see there's a question, but I cannot open it.
No, one of our listeners says, "Great talk, thank you."
Absolutely great talk today. Uh, it's been like really informative. Really informative session today. We touched upon traditional food, food quality of food, Ayurveda, the challenges of modern day lifestyle and eating. So, children's health. So, we touched upon a lot of stuff and it was super informative today. We would definitely love you to have come on as a guest some other time. Like, you have so much wisdom, we could have another session. So, that is,
Thanks,
that's,
thank you. Thank
yeah.
you for having me, and good
And,
health and happiness to all.
yeah, and for the information of audience, their store Anamaya is based in Bangalore. So if you are a Bangalorean, do check it out. And I think their online presence is going to be built very soon. And once that is available, people across the country can have access to some of their products. So good luck with that. Good luck with the venture, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kunal.